Hey there, beautiful soul. In this video, I'm going to share my conversation with national best-selling author Jessica Zweig on how to exactly build an authentic personal brand that attracts your ideal clients. This is from a live class I hosted inside my private healer community, Awaken the Healer Within. If you want access to the full training along with 40 plus modules and weekly live calls with me, click the link in the description to schedule a clarity call to see if you'd be a good fit. Jessica, you've said, and not just said, but you really practiced. Anyone can tell from looking at your Instagram or anything else that you do that authenticity isn't just about being transparent. It's about being in alignment. And many of us here actually are empaths. We've talked in the past about human design. In fact, our guest teacher next year has the Human Design podcast. And a lot of people here are projectors and empaths and healers who might fear coming off as too much or too spiritual online. How can they create a brand that feels aligned with their true essence while still connecting with the wider audience?
Yeah, so good. I could start by saying, after I sold my agency, which was back in 2023, and I wrote this book, The Light Work, where I came out of the spiritual closet in this book, talking about my light language and identification as a Palladian and all of the spiritual beliefs that I have around, this human journey, and that it's really a spiritual journey inside of a human body and a third dimensional matrix that we're here to unlock and remember the truth of our own sovereignty and to really remember we're all one. I was prepping for that moment for many, many years. I just want to say that, like, I think in certain ways I made it look kind of easy, like, as I just was so unapologetic and so bold about it. And yes, my market, my community, and my business responded in kind, and I started to attract more of the people that speak our language. But I had been really warming up that muscle, running my agency for 7 years, helping people build their personal brands. And as you were asking me that question, Frank, I kind of went back to this one moment where this philosophy on authenticity and alignment was tested in my own life experience for the first time. So I've actually started 3 businesses. My second business was the agency that did really well. The business before that was my first company I ever started. I was 27 years old. I didn't know what the heck I was doing as an entrepreneur. I built an online magazine for the women of Chicago. At the time, it was like a food and fashion blog. Anyway, that business was my real life MBA. I made all my mistakes, and that business left me broke at the end of those 7 years. And like $100,000 in credit card debt, like no money coming in, net negative bank balances, like financial destitution for real at like the age of 33.
Wow.
And I talk about like shame and self-loathing and like lack of worth and all of that good stuff, right? So I was like very clear, even though I had failed, I wanted to do it again. I wanted to try this thing called entrepreneurship. I had a business partner. I had outgrown that business. I was really clear that even though my circumstances financially were what they were on paper, I knew, like, I had a story to tell. I had like gained some gifts in marketing and social media running that magazine. And so I was asked to speak on a panel, like right at this inflection point. And I mean, I was coming out of debt. I didn't really have clarity on what my business was going to be. I just knew I was going to like consult and help people. And there was this, panel, about 4 or 5 people up there with me in a room, about 50 people in the room. And I shared out loud that I had like had this financial failure. I was really, really honest out loud in public for the first time in my life. And when that panel was over, there was a line of people around the room waiting to come up to me and talk to me. Like, with all due respect to the other panelists, they were beautiful, but no one wanted to talk to them. They wanted to come up to me and thank me.
Yeah.
The level of like gratitude and empowerment, and how seen they felt, how safe I had made them feel by being the brave one, to be honest. That moment was like one of my biggest unlocks. Like, when you are authentic, when you are transparent, there is a level of trust that is created, and it doesn't have to be 500,000 people on Instagram. It can be 50 people in a room. And it really set me on this path to lead with my authenticity, but not just because that felt good and cathartic, to be honest. Like, no one really cares about your drama. People care about what you could do for them. So when we channel that authenticity in service of lifting other people up, healing other people, ensuring people don't feel alone, whatever it might be, I believe that when we're in service, when we're helping other people thrive, there's no greater joy in the human experience than that.
Mm.
Like, and the key word is joy. So authenticity is, I believe, kind of what we have to unpack. But when we can channel that into really helping the world around us, our vibration rises. And joy is the cheat code into alignment. Because when you're in joy, you're vibrating at a frequency where you become kind of unfuckable with. And that's really the journey that I truly teach at my core. Like, I can teach you branding and messaging and strategy, and like I can do that. Those are like my 3D codes, if you will. But like the 5D unlock, this is my language at least. I think we all know what we mean when the difference between 3D and 5D. That is really when things start to happen fast. Like, the quantum leaps accelerate, and your business and your impact become way, way more expanded than you could ever strategize around. Like, it's such an inside job, such an internal game to get into alignment and how it impacts our businesses. So I wanted to share that story because I never forgot that. And I want to encourage everyone on the call to remember that you going first, you being brave, you being willing to be honest, not for your own, you know, like feedback, like how people are going to make you feel, but like, how can I channel what I've been through in a way that reaches into the hearts of other people, moves their souls, and serves them. And then those become your community, your clients, your evangelists, your diehards,
Mm.
because you've clicked into something deeper. So you've got to come from somewhere deeper to begin with. That makes sense.
Is that sort of the moment that you realize how powerful being authentic is and how people resonate with it?
That was one of them. I had a series of them over the course of my agency life. But I had reached such a rock bottom between business number 1 and business number 2.
Mm.
And that rock bottom forced me, and thank God for personal development coaches and the power of feedback. And like, you've jumped into this content, like, take it as long as it's from someone who has your best interest at heart. And what I really unlocked during that time was radical responsibility, like how I was really playing victim to my own life. And the more I was able to like recognize that, alchemize that, I became more self-empowered, and I felt less afraid of sharing my authenticity, because it was really the sauce that not just got people to trust me, but got the right people to trust me.
Yeah,
Like, we're not meant to be for everyone.
right.
I mean, and I just want to quickly say, like, you don't need 1 million followers on Instagram anymore to make millions of dollars. Like, if you're talking to 600 people on the internet, that's a stadium, right?
So
You can
true.
you can really, really align your business to the right people. We don't need to do it in the same way we once did, I think, to really drive success and abundance. And so stop caring about like trying to reach the masses or be for everyone, because you just end up being nothing to no one when you try to do that. And all these videos went down. And so I just wanted to make sure you guys were still with me. So
Yeah.
that is definitely a muscle, Frank, that you build over time, the
Yeah,
authenticity.
I love that you're saying all this too, because as I lead this course too, there's a difference between my social and of course the people taking this. Like, even when I looked at my like stats this morning, like in the last 30 days, 13 million people looked at my account. But what I learned from Harsha, who's on this call too, as he leads my entire social media as well, is that, like, a lot of the posts that we do, some of them are meant to go viral and they'll get 40 million views. But some of
Mhm.
them, like, Frank, the point of this reel is not to go viral. The point of this reel is to get conversion. So it's probably only going to get 3,000 views because we're focusing it on people who want to become healers, and that's it. But those 3,000 people who saw that, 20 of them will become lifelong clients. You know what I mean? Such a good
Definitely.
lesson for me to learn, because I come from the world of, from 15 years ago, of always just needing everything to go viral, because
Right.
that's what I thought success was. But then
Right.
when I think about it, I've gotten more success from those smaller reels that are targeted rather than the ones that got 40 million views, but it doesn't lead to anything,
Correct.
you know?
Correct. And 100%.
And you've also, because you talked about your journey from like the rock bottom to also mass success. You've said that your brand should evolve as you do, as you evolve. So how do you know when your brand, for anybody listening here, when your brand needs to evolve and when you need to just hold steady and keep going with on this path?
Beautiful question. I think that there is power in consistency. I'll say that. Like there is something really empowering actually about branding that at least my philosophy is, like, you get to teach the market who you are. You get to teach the market how to see you. You get to teach the market how to talk about you when you're not in the room. And how do you do that? By saying the same shit over and over and over and over and over and over again in just different ways, like repeating and rinse and repeating the message. And that's where like having a clear value proposition, clear content pillars, clear, prompts and like micro stories that then reiterate who you are holistically, but quickly and clearly. Like that's branding done well. That being said, we all grow, change, and evolve. And we're not Hyatt or Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts or Apple that needs that complete longevity and legacy in how we're seen in the market. We're personal brands, we're people. And
Mm.
so I think to answer your question, Frank, look, when your brand, you know it, you feel it in your body. You're like, this isn't me anymore. Like this feels inauthentic. This feels heavy. I wake up, I don't feel inspired. I wake up, I don't want to share anything. I don't know what to say. If you're experiencing that, there's a chance that you're out of alignment with your brand. And that's par for the course if you're a growing, evolving human being doing work on growing your soul, right? Like it's part of what we came here for. And so I think that it's really, there's one of two ways I think you can evolve your brand if you really want to go through like a rebrand. Let's just get tactical.
Yeah.
Is you can, back to the philosophy on transparency, take your audience with you on that journey. Like start showing up and saying, I'm trying this on and I'm going to be sunsetting this and you might notice some changes around here. You can take your audience on that journey. I've seen a lot of people do that. I've seen some clients I work with do that. The other option, this is at least my take on the two ways to do it is, obviously first you've got to get real with yourself and decide and come into like full wholeness around a pivot and a change and a dissolution of what once was so that you can step fully into whatever is next. And you can do that with like a slow drip, taking your community on the journey. They might build more trust in you because you're being authentic and transparent and co-creating it with them. Or you can hard launch, you can mic drop, you can like peel back. I'll speak from my own experience. I was running Simply Be Agency and my whole brand was like boss bitch, CEO, bright yellow, like pineapples, personal branding. Like I was running this big team. I was in agency life, like serving corporate executives. And behind the scenes, I was in a lot of pain because I was like, what the world sees is not what is happening here. And so I kind of went dark for 6 months. Now, granted, I was going through a transaction for my agency and I had to kind of be quiet. But nonetheless, when it came to my personal brand, I didn't know what to say. I had that feeling of like, what do I say? Because nothing feels right. Because I'm trying to play to a character
Mm.
that once was my authentic identity, but now it feels like a character. And so I kind of just peeled back and then I got clear on my message. I got clear on my look and feel. I rebranded my logo. I rebranded my podcast. I rebranded my life. And then I launched it. I hard launched it like a mic drop moment in February of 24.
Yeah.
And I feel like there was real advantage because here's the thing, you guys, people are nosy. People are fascinated. Like, why do you think when someone gets engaged or like announces they're pregnant, like the whole fucking internet blows up? People are fascinated by life change, not because people are bad. Like, we're just nosy species. It's the power of social media to begin with. So if that is something that you feel you're called for, you can, I think there's power in both strategies, but everyone kind of paused and started paying attention because I capitalized on the pivot and was really unapologetic about it. But most of all, I was clear and I was aligned. And if I look back in the early days of Simply Be, when I was building that brand, I was clear and aligned for like 5-6 years until that business burned me out and I got bored of agency life and I decided to do something different. So the point is, the moral of the story is you're allowed to evolve. You're supposed to. There's magic to consistency, yes. But if it doesn't feel like you anymore, you have full freedom and permission to change because you're supposed to.
There was something within that, what you said about being consistent with your message once you know what it is and getting really clear on it. And that part of that was the 7 pillars and, you know, your core principles and what they are, just so people have something tangible to take away as well. Before we get to their questions that are going to be specific to their things, can you talk a little bit about that and about building your core principles and your pillars of what your brand stands for?
Yeah, definitely. I'm just looking for my here. This is my first book, and I know many of you have probably picked up the light work, but this is the first book that I wrote, which was inspired by my personal branding agency and my methodology. So I have a trademarked methodology that really is like it's like a whole bunch of frameworks. And I often say that if you read this book and you do the work and you put down pen to paper and you read it front to back, by the end of it, you will have written your personal brand and your personal brand strategy. It's like I gave away the keys to the kingdom in this. And I teach all of this content and framework in my school, in my business school. All this to say, there's a framework that I love, that I live by, and it's magic. It's called the personal brand hologram. And it is, I mean, I think hundreds of thousands of people have gone through this by now, and it works like a charm. And essentially, when it comes to branding is an exercise in clarity. So hear me when I say that. It doesn't matter if you understand your own brand. You should. What matters is if someone else who's never heard of you before can feel and understand your brand in less than 10 seconds. Okay. That's the world we live in. That's how noisy, saturated, congested the internet is, social media. So you've got to be clear to cut through. Now, that being said, we're talking about personal brands for the most part here, right, on this call. And people aren't meant to be understood in less than 10 seconds. It takes a lifetime to understand a human being, right? So the power of a hologram asks you to define what is like the one thing, the one word, the one thought, the one feeling, the one question, the one statement you want people to think of instantaneously when they hear your name. That's called the headline. That's in the center. And so if you could think of like, I don't know, Gary Vaynerchuk, hustle, Gabby Bernstein, manifestation. I would hope Jessica Zweig, light worker, you know? What is that for you? And that's the center. And sometimes that's the hardest part to get. And then you'll see there's 4 boxes sitting around this circle in the hologram. And these are called your brand pillars. And there are actually only 4 of them. And the reason why there are 4 is because I've tested this. This has been like a science experiment, that 4 is the sweet spot that creates consistency, like I've been saying, constancy, and clarity, which equals memorability. The game is to be memorable. The game is to like impress upon people an emotional response, because branding is emotional, that doesn't leave them. That they like next time they see that thing you post, they've seen it and felt it a few times, that they're going to make an action. So 4 is the sweet spot that becomes your brand pillars. That really, I want to implore everyone on the call to ask yourselves this question, and I take you through this in the book. But if I were to wave a magic wand right now on this call and say, from this moment forward, October 12th, 2025 to the day that you die, and this might evolve, but we're not there yet, for the next however many years, what are 4 things you could talk about endlessly that are like come from the depth of your soul and the depth of your knowledge? These are going to be things that light you up the most and that you're the most passionate about and that you have the most experience with. And consider like what are some of those things like that people would pay you money for, right? That are like the foundation of your business. But you're not just a one-dimensional product, you're a human being. And so in order to create a magnetic personal brand, you have to be willing to tell your story and show your humanity. And this framework really challenges you to distill them down. And then in each of these 4 pillars, this is the final and third part of the hologram, there are what I call your unique insights. And there's 3 to 4 bullet points in each pillar that really extrapolate what is unique to you about that part of your business, your platform, your life. So for example, one of my pillars is spirituality. So is Frank's, you know. Jerry, I'm looking at you. I could be making this up, but let's say it's like feminine leadership. Mine too. But your expression of feminine leadership and my expression of feminine leadership are going to be different. And so these unique insights is where you kind of pull apart the threads of your discretions and your experiences and your failures and your stories and your beliefs that become the foundation of your entire message. So the hologram works as like the blueprint. Anytime you build a house, you got to hire an architect. So this is the blueprint. You would lay it down on a proverbial table, your platform, your Instagram, your website, your email list, your public speaking engagements, your elevator pitch, all of this multidimensional platform called you has clarity and consistency. And you can use this hologram to create endless content ideas. And you're never losing your humanity, you're never losing your clarity, and you're never going off brand. It's magic, this tool. So if I were to just could buy the book, or you could just, a lot of you are taking notes, like what's the one thing that people, you want to be known associated with? That's your headline, that word, that thought, that feeling, that statement. What are 4 areas of your life you could talk about endlessly? Your areas of your life and your business, those become your pillars. And then what is unique to you and to you alone about those pillars, and start to fill those in. And I say this with a lot of humility and gratitude, like that tool has changed people's lives if you really do it. And so yeah, that's my answer to that.
Thank you for sharing that. And there are 2 people in this course, but I don't see them on the call now, who have taken your business class, and they both they came and talked to us about it and how much they loved it and highly recommended it. Yeah, so I mean, I don't see them on the call, but they both were just going on and on about how worth it is.
Thank you.
And so I have a couple of more questions based on what you said, but I kind of want to open it up and see, does anybody have anything specific to what you're working on that Jessica can help with, whether it's your content, your overall hologram? Yeah, go ahead, Victoria.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, hi.
Hi, Jessica. It's such a pleasure to meet you. I've been following you for a little while and watching your stories every day, and just love your message and your vulnerability. And I absolutely love how you marry branding and business with the spirituality. It makes me feel like it's possible for me, and it's possible for all of us healers. So thank you so much for being here with us today. I have one question, but another one came up as well. So I don't want to monopolize the time, but I'll get straight to it. So I've set a very strong intention to leave my full-time job in the next few months. And so I just wanted any advice that you might have for me or for others who are in that phase where they are very serious about leaving what they're doing full time, and that, quote unquote, stability that we think we have with work, right? To really step into that, like our vision and our purpose for our lives and our, soul calling. So any advice that you have on that. And then the second question I had was, I've been noticing, or maybe thinking recently, like, so one of my main modalities is sound healing. I'm a sound healing practitioner. And so I'm wondering, do I focus on sharing most of my content about the modality, or do I focus more on My messaging is really around being your self-love bestie, and that love is the answer to living your version of a victorious life. And so I'm kind of sensing that I should be focusing on the self-love piece, and that sound healing is just one of the modalities. It's one of the ways that you can heal yourself or support yourself, support your nervous system. And so I just wanted any thoughts you might have around that. And I think probably everybody can relate to that question here, because we all, we each have our modalities, but then, so thank you.
You're welcome. Oh, it's so beautiful to meet you. Really, thank you for all of that. So I'll start with the corporate question, and then we'll get into the branding piece.
So that's a taste of what we dive into inside the community. If you know you're meant for more, but struggling to find a community of like-minded people, we'd love to have you join us inside. We have weekly live Zoom calls, an entire curriculum on healing yourself and building an abundant business, along with community of people just like you. If that sounds valuable to you, click the first link in the description to schedule a call with my team and learn more. Thank you for watching. If you like this content, make sure to subscribe for more.